Have you ever walked through a forest and felt like the trees were watching, whispering, or even responding to your presence? Hello and welcome to another episode of the My Slice of Life podcast. I'm Sharon O'Neill, your Highland host, and we're nearly at the end of this season, which is called From Random to Rants. And let me tell you, this week is a pretty random topic. But before we dive in, I do need to do just a little bit of housekeeping. If you follow me on YouTube and read my blog, you will know I've been tidying up my online content. At least I've been trying to, and if you haven't heard about my latest blunder, I'll tell you on the bonus episode for this season. You have to wait till then. It's embarrassing, but I'll share it. What I can tell you is that I now have a YouTube channel for the podcast, and it's at My Slice of Life Pod. Now you might be thinking, what are you telling me that for? I'm listening right now, and I am very grateful for that, honestly. But part of the shake-up I'm working on will include, I'm hoping, doing a video format for the podcast so it won't be just audio. Now, I'm still trying to get it all sorted out, and those of you who know me well enough will know I'm very technically challenged, but it's on the card, so I thought I'd set up the channel anyway. And if you do know the best way to do those sorts of videos, like what sort of software I should be using, please let me know, because I'm struggling already. The other thing I need to let you know about is that I've shut down the Patreon page, and I'm putting any of the downloadables, most of which are free by the way, they're all going to be on the Buy Me a Coffee page. All the links are in the show notes for you, and I would really love it if you would head over to my YouTube channels and subscribe there, the podcast and the gardening one. I really need all the support over there that I can get. And when you go, I have a request for you. Please watch the videos. Yes, I know everyone says, subscribe, and I need that too, but what I really need you to do is actually watch the videos, even just a couple. That would really help me out, because that is what the YouTube algorithm is really counting. It's how much people watch, not just who subscribes. And one final little thing is to give you a bit of a heads up. At the end of every season, I've done a little bonus episode, and I want you to make sure you don't miss the bonus for this season. That's all I'm saying at the moment, but I am excited about it. I'm also very excited about this week's topic. You might be wondering just what I meant by the title, but I want to talk about a couple of things to do with trees. A couple of very specific things. The last one is really wild, and I want your opinion on it, so stay tuned for that. So today, yes, we're stepping into the world of trees, not just as plants, but as living beings with their own secret ways of communicating. Science is starting to reveal that trees communicate in ways, and we're only now beginning to understand it. I want to split tree communication into two parts, because the first one, it's really interesting, but the second part really has me wondering. So let's start with what we do know. Trees talk to each other. Not with words, of course, but through an underground network scientists call the Wood Wide Web. And yes, I know we could have come up with a better word for it, but they didn't ask us, did they? So we're stuck with that. But back in the 1990s, forest ecologist Dr. Suzanne Simard conducted groundbreaking research that showed how trees connect with each other using special fungi in the soil. These fungi, called mycorrhizal fungi, they're tiny organisms, right? And they form symbiotic relationships with tree roots. The fungi get food from the tree, and in return, they act like an information highway, passing messages across the forest floor. It's a complex system where the tree roots connect in with the fungi. They just form this communication network that allows them to send signals to other trees. They share nutrients, and get this, they can even warn each other of danger. Today, they do reckon mycorrhizal networks are recognised as the communication form of choice by more than 85% of plants. Now, Dr. Simard's experiments revealed that older, more established trees, and that's what she called mother trees, they can recognise and support their own offspring by sending them nutrients through these fungal networks. And trees can also detect when a neighbouring tree is in distress and send extra resources to help it recover, which I thought was just lovely when I read that. So, care about each other. I mean, imagine an ancient oak sensing an insect infestation. Through its roots, it sends a chemical signal to its neighbours, warning them to prepare their defences, and in return, these nearby trees might send sugars and nutrients to help it recover. That's how it can work. And it's not just underground signals. Trees and plants also use airborne chemical signals to talk to each other. This is particularly useful, when they're facing threats like insects or other predators. And one famous experiment involved acacia trees in Africa. Scientists observed that when the giraffe started eating the leaves of one acacia tree, it released ethylene gas into the air. The neighbouring trees detected this gas and responded by pumping bitter-tasted tannins into their own leaves, making them less appetising. The giraffes would come along, find these bitter leaves totally disgusting, and move on to a different tree, one which presumably didn't get the memo yet, but that's how it worked. Another example comes from tobacco plants. When they're under attack by caterpillars, these plants release chemicals that attract parasitic wasps. Now this is interesting to me because I had a go at growing some tobacco plants last year and I didn't know about this. These wasps that have been attracted by the chemicals, they'll come in and lay their eggs inside the caterpillars, pretty much eliminating the threat. And just think about that for a minute. Plants under attack can put out the bat signal, basically, calling for help. An SOS to actually summon predators to come and take care of their attackers for them. I think that's amazing. There was also experiments done on corn and beans which showed that plants can detect distress signals from their neighbours, and when one plant is damaged, nearby plants start producing defensive chemicals even if they haven't been touched. And all of this, it does seem to suggest that plants and trees have a really complex way of sensing and responding to their environment, doesn't it? And it is one that we're really only beginning to understand. And just to divert slightly for a second here, given that plants and trees communicate using this mycorrhizal fungi in the soil, what do you think happens to that communication system when we come along and we put our forks in it to dig it all up? Or worse still, come in with a rotavator and really churn it all to pieces? If ever there was a good reason to go no dig or no till, as some of you might know it, I think this makes a very strong case for leaving the soil alone. Many people talk about not disturbing the structure of the soil, but I'm starting to think we should think about it more like not destroying the communication system that's in the soil. There's a reason people like Charles Dowden, who is the UK's no-dig guru, gets great results year after year. Anyway, there was something else I wanted to talk about in relation to trees and communication, and here's where things get even weirder. Some studies suggest that plants might be able to respond to sound. In a study by Monica Galliano, I think that's how you pronounce it, who, as well as being an evolutionary biologist, she has developed a new field in science called bioacoustics. Now let me tell you, she's done a lot of research, and if you go to her website, which I'll link in the notes, you can go and have a look at the work she's been doing because it is fascinating. And in one experiment, researchers played recordings of running water near plant roots. And even when no moisture was present, the roots grew towards the sound. And this suggests that plants have some ability to detect and react to acoustic cues in their environment. In another experiment, it involved playing the sound of caterpillars chewing leaves near plants, and in response, the plants increased their production of defensive chemicals before they were even actually physically attacked. So this suggests that plants might be able to, if not hear, at least sense vibrations associated with danger. Now that brings me to something which is a bit harder to explain. Have you seen those videos where someone, if they approach the tree, like they just stand beside it and they say something like, "Hello tree, if you can hear me, can you touch my shoulder?" And sometimes it happens immediately and sometimes it's, there's a bit of a pause, but the branch moves. And I don't just mean swaying about erratically. Some of them seem to move slowly but very deliberately towards the person talking and actually touch them on the shoulder like they were asked. Now I know what you're thinking and you're going to say, look, it's just the wind. But in some cases, the surrounding branches, they're completely still. There's no wind. And it really makes the movement look intentional. But before I jumped to that conclusion, I was thinking, well, what other possibilities are there for this? And one explanation could be micro-movements. Trees are always in motion in some way. So maybe subtle vibrations, temperature changes or air currents caused by our presence, could they just be enough to trigger movement, maybe? Could it be conscious awareness? There's many spiritual traditions believe that trees do have a form of consciousness, one that operates on a much slower time scale than ours. So if the trees are aware in some way, could they be responding to human presence or intention? And if plants have been able to respond to the sounds of vibrations of running water or predators, could it be they're capable of responding to the sounds and vibrations of our voices? Are they just reaching out to find out where the source is? You know, like the roots reached out to find where this water was that they were hearing or sensing. I keep saying hearing, but do you know what I mean? Or is it all just a coincidence? I don't know, but I find it fascinating. And while we don't have definitive scientific proof, the idea that trees might be able to sense and react to us, it doesn't seem as far-fetched to me as it used to. But what does all of this mean for us? And whether you believe in the scientific side, the mystical side, or a mixture of both, one thing is clear. I think it's safe to say that trees are vital to all of us. I love trees. So maybe the next time you walk through the woods, just take a moment to stop, listen, and go up and say hello. You never know, you might even get a response. And if you think some of that sounds a bit out there and a bit, woo, as they say, I am not finished quite yet. Oh no, I have saved the best till last. And I'm putting links in the notes for these two because, trust me, you will want to see this for yourself if you haven't already. The videos I'm talking about are ones where they show trees moving. And I don't mean waving in the wind. I mean moving like they are, for want of a better word, walking. These trees can be seen moving from one part of the forest to a completely different part. Some are taken from above, and you can really see there's a small area of a forest, like nothing else is moving. There's this one small area, which there's something really wild going on there, and you see a tree appear to move from one area to another. So I don't really know how else to describe it. There's one or two I think could possibly be like a landslide sort of effect. But there are some, I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, are these just fake? Has somebody been very clever with AI and just trying to trick us all? I don't know. I mean, have they caught something that we're not actually meant to see? Can trees uproot, walk away and live somewhere else? You watch the videos and leave a comment to let me know your thoughts on this and all the other tree communication points that I was talking about earlier. And that really just leaves me to say, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode. I really do hope you'll check out the video links for yourself and of course all my other links too. And I hope that we meet again next week for another random or rant episode. I know which one it's leaning towards and I don't think you're going to want to miss it. But until then, you take care of your wee self.